The floor is open. Anybody would like to speak? I'd love to hear if anybody can even put words around what happens when I say open your heart to it as you're meditating. But I'd also like to hear anything else that you want to talk about.
Could you talk a little bit more about being shut down?
It's a form of protection. And it actually, it has a felt sense to it. If you feel your body and you're shut down, you know in some way maybe that you're not feeling very much, or the world feels you feel a little separate from the world, or a lot separate from the world. And there can be an actual sense of pressure in the chest when you're somewhat shut down. And so on the one hand, that's maybe the opposite of being open-hearted. But it actually isn't. And this is what's so amazing, is that you can open your heart to it. You can actually turn towards something in you that's numb with at least curiosity, at least some softness, some willingness to feel for yourself. So, but it's an actual, it actually manifests in the body. And there can be a kind of sunken energy that can go with it. Sometimes there's a grumpiness that goes with it, not necessarily. And what's kind of amazing about human beings is there can be little patches of shutdown in people who are really not very shut down in general. They can be shut down to certain places in themselves. So people can be very functional and open, congenial, even have fun. And yet, in some way, there's something still a little shut down and frozen. Like some of our energy gets frozen somewhere. In the shamanic traditions, they talk about soul retrieval. Like there's a piece of your soul that somehow goes off somewhere and disappears. And that, the process of, growing up as a human is like we park pieces of our soul that are rejected somewhere else because it's too hard for them. Life's too hard for them. So we put them somewhere else. And so then there are these sort of ceremonies where you go off and find this piece of yourself and bring it back. So that's also kind of a part of shutdown, is this way that we can exile, we can send away like things in us. So we're not all here. And so we may not even know what those are. It's more by those moments where we feel fully alive that we get a sense of how much we've sent away of ourselves. Moments of being fully alive. So how am I doing, Jim? Is there a question to follow, or?
Yeah, I don't even know if I can. I don't know what shutdown is in me. Well, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, I do know,
You
but
don't know what has been shut down, but you know the feeling of shutdown.
yes, right.
Yes. Yeah.
So what you're saying is accessing that somehow so that I would know a little bit more about what shut down.
Yeah. Begin by feeling the body. The body is the doorway, and noticing where you feel shut down
Huh.
in the actual body.
This is an intention.
Yes, it's an intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Intentions are so fuzzy, you know. It's like, all right, it's not intention. Okay, intentions can be clear,
It can be
but
clear.
yes, but how it happens, how intention makes things clearer, hmm, um, I'm not sure.
Right. Well, I can speak a little bit about that is that, generally you have to keep coming back to your intention for
Okay,
for the mountain to move,
right.
right? So you've been meditating a while, Jim, and you know that you may have the intention for your mind to stay put somewhere, but it wanders off anyway.
Right.
Um, but if you persist, and especially if you were to say do a day-long retreat, your mind would start to stay more and more. It would the intention would begin to work in you, and something
Mhm.
would begin to shift. So it's the same, I believe, when it comes to being shut down. Is you can return to the intention, which could be what I would suggest would maybe be the most skillful is to open your heart to the shutdown. Just let that touch you, that reality, rather than demanding that it open right up, you know,
Okay,
and do it in the body, feel it in the body.
right. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, our other Jim Walker.
It's interesting that you've been talking about this because must be maybe for the last year, I've really noticed that I'm just a lot more able to accept, well, first of all, myself for the good and the bad and also other people and not being as judgmental about uh, their action or interaction. Um, so I've been thinking about that and thinking, where did this come from? It's like, well, I thought, well, maybe all of the classes I've been taking with Mark have been paying off in some little way. But also, I think that I've been watching Robert Sapolsky's series of lectures on YouTube and his idea of there is no such thing as free will. And then reading several books. The latest one is called A Trick of the Mind, How the Brain Invents Reality. Um, that the theme of the book is that, and this guy that Daniel Yan is a neurologist and researcher, and basically his thesis is that our mind is like a scientist. It's always trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and it makes up stories about and then you, Mark, you talk about that, about how we're always trying to make up stories to tell other people who we are. So it's been interesting, the story that I had, and living back here in Santa Fe with Andrea, and we knew each other 40 years ago, so we've gotten back together. But then all these new people here, and they all want to know about me, and I'm just like, I'll tell you a little bit, but I'm not opening up. But all these people are telling me what a great guy I am, and I'm so this and I'm so that, and I'm like, maybe not, maybe not, but we'll see. So, but like I said, at the same time, I'm trying not to just be really beat up myself either.
That's a
And
good thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever the cause is a good thing
Yeah.
when your heart kind of softens and it's not so judgmental of others. You suffer less, they suffer less around you, you know, even if it's unspoken. There's a kind of vibe we put out when we're judging people, and people can pick up on it. So, yeah. And maybe when these people you're meeting are saying you're a good guy, Jim, maybe what they're actually picking up on is that you're not judging them. You know, you're not in that sort of frame of reference. They may feel safe around you, which is a felt thing um, with, people who aren't judging. All
Well,
right, thanks.
thank you for all. It's like because one of the things, like I said, one of the things I went to is like, oh, maybe all these years of interacting with you is some of that's rubbed off.
Well, maybe I'd like to take credit for it. Yeah, I would. I think it's multifactorial. You've shown up. You've shown up for years too. That's important. And you've put it into practice. That's important too.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Let me lower my hand. So, in meditation, when I was opening my heart, to my breath, I just felt a lot of joy. I think when I open my heart, that's my natural state is just to feel a lot of joy. And it reminded me of this affirmation that I use a lot in another meditation class, which is I'm a radiant being of light and
Mhm.
love.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I say that affirmation, it just really opens up my heart.
Uh-huh.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah. And I was taught that the heart is like an indiscriminate radiator. So when you open up your heart, it's not discriminating. And I guess that is my challenge. Like if I can open it, and consistently do that, then it works. But it really is situational. Like how do you open your heart to situations that are going on in the world that are quite unbelievably disturbing, on an intellectual level.
Hmm.
And so, it's
Well, you
just
kind of
like,
have to get out of the intellectual level for
yeah,
anything to
right.
ever work. Yeah.
Really dropping into the heart.
Mhm.
Like, you've asked us to in meditation before is really taking that energy,
Mhm.
and so that's something I'm really going to practice. That I'd like to practice in each meditation is just that bringing the energy down from the head to the heart.
Yeah.
And then Tanis and I were paired up, and she was talking about a class that I remember. You were talking about the heart opening, like from the back.
From the back. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah. I come back to that. I circle back to that once in a while.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
And
helpful.
as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, I remember that and how I felt like so vulnerable. Like when I did it, trying to do that, like how different it was than visualizing radiating out the front of
Mhm.
of my heart. So those were the experiences that I had. And then Tanis brought up that other one, which I thought was very interesting. So there's a lot going on for me when I drop into my heart.
Wonderful. Yeah. I thought too, as you were speaking, that this, my little phrase, I really want to be here for this, is one of those things you can like kind of drop into your experience when you're witnessing something happening in the world that's painful. And it's so counter instinctual, shall we say. It's so counter instinctual because our immediate reaction is, oh, I don't want to be here for this. This is like horrible. And I'd just as soon not know. And so there's something about I want to be here for this is you can actually let that phrase bring you down to the level of the heart where it's true. Because as you said, the heart is an indiscriminate radiator. I like that. In as much as it's willing to be there. And we can't quite think our way there. We can't reason our way there. And so I like the phrase, it's so totally counterinstinctual, but you can follow it to see if you can find the level of your heart where it's true, where there is something in all of us that's willing to know, willing to witness, willing to care, willing to feel something. There's a level there. And it's, I would even say, beyond the personal. It's beyond the personal. Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Were you going to say something else?
Just that I feel like it takes a lot of bravery to do what you just described.
Oh, it does. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
Courage, where the word courage comes from.
Yeah. Cool. The heart.
Heart. Yes. Yes. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of heart to do that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. You're welcome. How's your practice going daily? Anybody having trouble with that? This is kind of an entirely different topic, but it's important. I like to help people establish it. And so, we have these classes and we have these topics and there are these things that I introduce, but there's something really just fundamental about having a practice. So I'm open to talking about that too. So, Elaine.
Yeah, I think this is a step back to what we were talking about before. A while ago, you introduced, we were talking about curiosity, and on a number of occasions when I've needed to do something that I feel an aversion to, I've had the experience, it's sort of like a light bulb going off on of saying, well, what would this look like? Sort of being curious about, well, I don't want to do that thing, but what does it look like if I did it while I don't want to do it? And that it's been an interesting phenomenon that curiosity has enabled me to do some things that I've been averse to doing. I mean, things that were good for me to do, that I've wanted to do, that I was intentional about, but couldn't, whatever. And it doesn't always work, but it's interesting when it does. It's kind of like opening up to this idea of, okay, I did this yesterday and I wanted to do it, and today I don't want to, but I need to. And then just saying, well, what's that going to be like, if I do that while I'm fighting it, and it's gotten me out there. It's been interesting. The other thing that on another channel is about opening your heart. I don't know if it's quite that, but another thing that you introduced a while back that has been really helpful for me is the distinction between discernment and judgmental. And I think previous to that, I've been annoyed when, I said, well, it's me. I'm analytical and I make judgments, and I don't want to do away with that part of myself. That's who I am. And then being able to see the difference between judgmental and discerning. And more recently, I've had an intention that I don't always act on, but that I'm working on, which is to it's kind of the and but thing, like, yeah, I discern something I don't like about you, but it doesn't wipe you away. It's like, that's just a part, that it's, yeah, this is there. I'm discerning that correctly. That's something crappy that you do that I don't like, and I'm never going to like it. But it's only a small part. There's all, rather than shutting off. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful to have that perspective of human beings because we're all composed of parts
Mm-hmm.
that jump in and take over and do various things. And everybody I know has some not very flattering parts,
Mm-hmm.
that can occasionally take over, and they can um, do things that are hurtful. So I
Yeah.
think it's very wise to see people as complex, and that one particular part that shows up that maybe isn't so skillful is not a whole human being. And to while they're showing up though with that, if you feel aversion to them, I would call that judgment. you know
Mm-hmm.
in a moment, when someone is behaving badly, shall we say, if you're purely in the discerning place, you can know, okay, they're behaving badly. Um, this is not skillful, but there isn't a kind of charge inside yourself. You don't suffer for their bad behavior. When you judge someone, you're like sticking yourself with something painful because the dislike hurts, right? The uh, actually is your own suffering. That's aversion. So I would suggest that that does include some judgment when you're going,
Mm-hmm.
when you're actually feeling like, oh, uh, uh, that kind of feeling is the judgment. And I like that you can mix it up. Okay, I have judgment about that, but I don't have judgment about the other part of the person. But when I talk about discernment, I actually mean a state that is very equanimous. It's like at peace. It's not disturbed by whatever's in front of it. It's a rare human experience, I think, pure discernment. It's a rare human experience. Um, but I bet we've all had it. We've all had it where it's just like we observe someone doing something that's hurtful to themselves or to others. And it's like we just see it clearly. And maybe we discern a way to act, to intervene, or to deflect, or do something, but it doesn't close our heart. Judgment always closes the heart in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It's that yuck, the doors of the heart slam shut with that yuck. And again, I say that with no judgment about judgment. If you can take that, it's like judgment happens. Aversion happens. It's human. It's human to have these preferences. And but with wisdom comes this ability to like take in that people behave this way because they're suffering or they're ignorant. They just don't know better. And you can almost feel your feelings shift with that thought, with that viewpoint. This is suffering, which, by the way, is another of one of my phrases I love to drop into experience is this is suffering, which works with myself if I, have a harsh moment.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than judging myself, sort of like, this is suffering. This is pain. Because it's true, it is pain. And seeing it that way just like disarms it. Or someone else, this is suffering. Um, can disarm it. Though things can be kind of complex politically, I have to say, because one can see it, and then fear arises maybe after that of what the consequences of that will be, and then so can be a complex thing, but to see this is suffering, it just has a way of cutting through judgment. And what was the first thing you talked about too, Elaine? That was really very helpful.
About curiosity.
Curiosity, yes. Yeah. Curiosity is part of your heart opening.
Mm-hmm.
Opening to experience, opening to that thing you don't want to do. The thing you put off doing because for whatever reason you avoid it. And it's painful in some way. I think about that. Sometimes I have these tasks around the house I avoid them. Why do I avoid them? They're painful. What's painful about them? Okay, I'm being curious. What's painful about them? What's often painful about them is I don't know what to do. And inquire, so I don't know what to do. Does that have to be painful? Maybe it doesn't have to be painful. Maybe I could ask somebody else what to do. Maybe there are lots of people out there who know how to do this. In fact, I've actually found that people like it when you ask them what to do, when they know how, and even when they don't know how, sometimes they join you in feeling stupid. It's like you can both be sitting there feeling confounded by something. And because there's human companionship, there's no judgment. And the pain is not there. So those are some of my thoughts, around things you don't want to do, the pain that may be there. And what curiosity does is it asks the question, what's painful here? Well, does it have to be? So forth. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Elaine. That's great. And it's helpful for me to know what I've said of all these things that I say that stick. It's good to know the things that stick. All right. Who else would like to speak?
Yes, I wanted to go back to what you asked about how is your practice going?
Okay.
Because my formal sitting practice is pretty steady. It's daily. It's, I don't have concerns about missing it, or, if something does come up and I can't get to it, I'm not stressed at all about that because I know I'll get back to it. And yet it's the whole rest of the day that I'm not very connected to practice, I think. Although I'm aware of some of the effects of the teachings that has on me over the course of the day. But
So you do recall the teachings and reflect them in situations. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Just am reminded of them. But just to circle back to these questions of what is feeling this, or who knows this, or these questions just in this last week have somehow stuck a little bit and come to me during the day. So that's just a difference I've noticed in this particular teaching, and I really appreciate it. I also really appreciate. I know you said it's you don't have to come up with an answer, but it's helping me to have tucked in my pocket the answer of, oh, it's my silence, or it's my stillness. Because not having any answer at all just becomes very frustrating. And I shut off my thinking, or my curiosity shuts right off, because of it feels stupid or something. But so I don't know if it's a way of well, it's a way of for me to relate a little more to the question is to have a secret answer, and explore that.
Yeah,
You
it's another way to go at it, because you can answer its silence,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of mystery to that
yeah,
answer. It's not
right,
it's not like a, oh well, I know what that is kind of an
right,
answer,
right.
and it kind of points you back to the mystery. So that's why it works. I mean,
Uh-huh.
if I had one thing to suggest is to take the
Yeah,
word my out of it,
yeah, I know.
because who knows who owns this
Uh-huh.
silence
Yeah,
or this stillness or this
yeah,
emptiness? Who knows? So that just, would make it even
yeah,
a little more open.
yeah. Thank you.
And I think of you know the Tibetan teacher Tsoknyi Rinpoche, who was really the first teacher to introduce me to this level of practice where you see what's looking. Um, and he would say, "Small moments, many times.
Uh,
Small moments, many times." So it isn't like you walk around as the silence, but there's just
uh-huh.
a moment of like, as you're listening, like what is hearing, and maybe you touch the silence that you are for a moment, and that might be it. And
Yeah,
then maybe another moment it comes to you again to like be curious as you're listening to something. What's listening? What hears? And in that moment of like checking in, something shifts, but you can't hold on to it very well. Um,
no,
so small moments, many times. And it's helpful that you notice that you just get frustrated if you don't have an answer. So
yeah,
you came up with an answer that doesn't close you, doesn't close the question off, keeps you
no.
inquiring. So that's helpful.
Thanks.
All right, you're welcome. Actually, sounds like your practice is coming into your life in more ways. Yes. So I guess we only have a minute left, so it's probably the case that we should not take another caller. I was going to say, as if this is a call-in show. It is a sort of. It's kind of a call-in show. All right. Um, so again, you have another tool you can work with about open your heart as you're meditating, and you have the guided meditation that I recorded to go back to kind of encourage that and see where that goes. Come back next week and tell me about it. All right. Be well.